It has been a morning of high drama in South Korea. The scandal-plagued President Yoon declared martial law this morning and accused the opposition of conspiring with North Korea to undermine him. South Korea's National Assembly, including members of the president's own party, voted against it. And in just the past few minutes, the president has reportedly reversed his declaration. So, joining us live now is the senior lecturer in Japanese politics and international relations at the University of Cambridge, John Nilsson-Wright. John, good to see you. What on earth is going on in South Korea?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty unprecedented, isn't it? I mean, it was 44 years ago that we saw a president invoke martial law. President Yoon, I think, has, facing so much opposition at home because he's very unpopular, facing an opposition in the National Assembly that was blocking some of his budget measures, and most importantly of all, calling for the impeachment of prosecutors who had been charged with investigating, amongst other things, allegations that his wife, the First Lady, had been involved in insider trading. Because of that, he seems to have been rashly persuaded that this declaration of martial law would somehow save him from his impending political the end of his political career, I think. If that was his calculation, it has so clearly backfired. And I think it's testament to the strength of public opinion and democratic commitment on the part of ordinary South Korean voters that the system, the safeguards, the guardrails, if you like, are holding.
Would you call this a coup or an attempted coup, John, even though it was half-baked?
I mean, the term, of course, is usually of course, associated with someone trying to take over the existing institutions of government. The president, of course, is an elected president. So he certainly didn't need to do this, and he wasn't within his rights to do this. It reflected, of course, deadlock between the National Assembly and the president's office. But that's just the facts of life, if you like, politically. This was hugely misguided. And the fact that the Americans were so cautious in responding to those initial claims a few hours ago, I think indicates that the suggestion that this was the North Koreans was bogus from the very beginning. It's a very sad ending to a political career. You'll remember that President Yoon served as special prosecutor under the previous administration of Moon Jae-in and was appointed precisely to clear up political corruption. So there's a deep irony that he himself now finds himself on the back foot because of those similar allegations.
So like you said there, I mean, this is the end of his career. How long does he last now? Is it days, weeks?
Hard to say, really. I mean, I think with the strength of public opinion being so powerful, I would hope that he would do the decent thing and resign. But if he doesn't, there will be calls, as there already are, for his impeachment. That has to go through the appropriate constitutionally mandated procedures, unless, of course, he can be arrested. Then I think impeachment is probably the only way forward at this stage, unless he resigns. And then, of course, that opens the door to what might happen to him in terms of punishment, prosecution, and possibly even imprisonment. So it's a fairly bleak prospect for President Yoon, and it's a tragedy that he's ended his career in such a devastatingly unhelpful way.
So, okay, you've explained that really well, and appreciate you doing that for us here, John. So we know, and you've referred to this, there's these corruption allegations that relate to he and his wife. Would he also face extra legal issues from this, attempted coup or this declaration of martial law that failed in the end? Would there be extra legal problems for that?
I think there's a probably high probability that could be part of what happens now. There were suggestions, for example, that members of his cabinet and the Prime Minister himself were not consulted. And that is a constitutional requirement for any declaration of martial law, that it has to go through the cabinet. The suggestion is that the defense minister was consulted and was on board with this process. So there will be other members of Yoon's administration who will be implicated in this, who I'm sure will be facing scrutiny by the National Assembly and by the Korean media, which I think has to be commended for continuing to do its job in the midst of this crisis. So once again, I think if we want to take any good news out of this, this very sad development, is that the democratic process hopefully has worked in a way that will ensure democracy remains resilient in South Korea.
And those protesters still there in the early hours of this morning. At Cambridge University, John Nilsson-Wright, thank you so much. Nice to talk to you.